It's June in Italy, and you know what that means. It's time for the annual Festa della Repubblica, or the Festival of the Republic. And today we are going to take a look back at the history of this day. Welcome back to my channel. I am your host, and today I am dressed like an Italian. Not only because I love all things Italy, but also because it's hot outside, and this is the perfect outfit when it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, let's get into today's video. Let's travel back in time to 1946 to the end of World War II. Italy had just surrendered to the Allies. The country was in ruins, and the Italians were ready for some serious changes. You see, up until 1946, Italy was ruled by a king and queen, King Victor Emmanuel III and Queen Elena. But following the devastation of the war and a push from the new socialist, communist, and democratic parties, the Italians decided they didn't want a king and queen anymore, and they voted to establish the Italian Republic. On June 2, 1946, Italians went to the polls to vote on two questions. Do you want to restore the monarchy, or do you want to establish a republic? Well, the results were pretty clear. With over 12 million votes to nearly 9 million, the Italians chose republic. To say that this was a landslide victory would be an understatement. In fact, even before the voting ended, it was clear that the monarchy was on its last legs, with the number of votes for republic far exceeding that of the monarchy. The monarchy lost so badly in part because of the unpopular king and his family. While Victor Emmanuel III had declared Italy's surrender to the Allies in 1943, he continued to cling to power despite his country's defeat. Even more, many Italians blamed the royal family for getting involved in Mussolini's plans, which led to the country's demise. The shift from monarchy to republic was actually not the first time Italy had done this. Italy had previously been a republic in the 18th century under the rule of the House of Savoy, but after the French Revolution and Napoleon's invasion of northern Italy, the Congress of Vienna awarded the entire Italian peninsula to the House of Savoy, making them kings of a newly established Kingdom of Italy in 1861. So while this change wasn't totally uncharted territory, it was new for the 20th century. But now that the Italians voted to become a republic, how did they move forward? Well, to answer this question, let's meet the first president of the Italian Republic. This man was an old pro when it came to politics. At the age of 71, Enrico De Nicola was no rookie on the political scene. He had served as the president of the Italian Senate, Prime Minister of Italy, and Deputy Prime Minister several times. And he was well liked across the political spectrum, which made him a good choice to lead the country during these uncertain times. He was elected president on June 18, 1946, and served until 1948. He helped draft the new constitution, ushered in a new wave of reforms, and helped Italy transition from a monarchy to a democracy. Now, while the new Italian government was formed, there was still one major issue: what to do with the former royal family. You see, after the vote to become a republic, Victor Emmanuel III and his family fled to exile in Portugal. But in 1947, the Italian parliament passed a law that confiscated the family's property and gave citizenship to the former king and his family, stripping them of their royal titles. Then, in 1948, Victor Emmanuel III died in exile in Egypt. His wife, Queen Elena, died 3 years later in 1952, also in exile in Switzerland. Their son, who had been named king after his father's death, had never really exercised royal authority, died in 1962 in exile in Washington, D.C. Today, the former royal family's descendants live in exile around the world, including here in the United States. One of Victor Emmanuel III's grandchildren, Princess Maria Pia of Savoy, lives here in Colorado. I actually tried to interview her for this episode, but she declined, probably because I'm not quite on her level when it comes to being a princess. June 2nd became an official public holiday in 1948 and has been celebrated every year since. Initially, celebrations included military parades, speeches by government officials, and lots of food. Today, Italians celebrate by spending time with friends and family, parading through the streets, picnicking, and having fun. In recent years, though, the holiday has become less popular, with many Italians staying home and enjoying a long weekend with barbecues and time with loved ones. However, in big cities like Rome and Milan, there are huge parades with reenactments of the fall of the fascist regime and the subsequent establishment of the Republic. Schools are closed, businesses are shuttered, and everyone takes a long weekend to celebrate. In 2016, then Prime Minister Matteo Renzi called for a revival of the Festa della Repubblica, encouraging Italians to use the day as an opportunity to reflect on the achievements of their republic and to reaffirm their commitment to democracy. In his speech in 2016, Renzi said, 70 years ago, the Italians woke up and chose work over leisure, progress over regression, openness over closure, Europe over isolation, rights over violence, democracy over dictatorship. But how do you celebrate this day if you don't live in Italy? Well, I have some ideas. First, you could watch some of my other videos about Italy. I have a whole playlist dedicated to this beautiful country. Next, you can grab some Italian food, maybe try making pasta from scratch or grabbing a pizza or gelato. You could also brush up on your Italian by watching an Italian movie or TV show. I recently started watching Call My Agent, which is a French series on Netflix, but it's also been remade in Italy. Or watch something classic like Roman Holiday with Audrey Hepburn, or When in Rome with Kristen Bell. Finally, if you're feeling ambitious, try learning an Italian folk dance or teaching yourself a song in Italian. A few years ago, I taught myself a song in Italian for my trip to Venice, and people still tell me that they loved it. However you choose to celebrate, I hope you enjoy it, and thank you all for joining me today. I've been your host, and until next time, remember, Italy is not just a country, it's a way of life. And remember to stay tuned for future episodes. And until next time, arrivederci.